Welcome back to this episode of This Round is on Me. Way before this trend of mompreneurs who use social media to optimize sales and spread the word came into being, there were a handful of women from traditional households who went on to create legendary brands. Asha Jhaveri was one of them, who went on to create Swati Snacks in South Bombay. In 1979, her children, Asha and Anand, took over the reins of the iconic brand after their mother passed away. And today, Swati Snacks has 4 outlets, 2 in Mumbai and 2 in Ahmedabad, and their monthly turnover touches 4 crores. This is pre-pandemic. Anand's son, Shan, and Asha's nephew, Karan, are third-generation entrants who are taking the eatery to new heights. And join us straight after this break to have a conversation with them.
Hello, everybody. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On The Habit Coach, communication consultant Cass Thomas tells Ashton why communication always needs to start with us. Misconduct is back with Season 3. Raghavi and Nisha tell us the real-life story of Gangubai Kathiawadi. On Audio Gyan, Kedar asks architect Fernando Vello about the future of maps in the digital era. On Naan Curry, Sadaf and Archie break down the history of India's most important ingredient, milk. And on Marathi Kirkitun, the Deshmukhs talk about Ravi Kiran Mandal and his contribution towards Marathi poetry. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, we've been doing a series of profiles of people within the office, so do check that out for sure. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, don't forget to rate us on any platforms you're listening on. And you can also check us out on YouTube. We have a page on our website, ivmpodcast.com/YouTube, with a list of all our channels. We're also doing a small listener survey to better understand how you, the listener, responds to the advertising on our network. And also, we just want to know a little bit more about you. We would really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it out. It will really help us build some better shows for you. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week, SBI Life Insurance and Jupiter, a digital banking app.
So welcome to the show, Asha and Karan. It's so great to have the second and third generation entrepreneurs of Swati on the show today. So thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you for calling us.
So, first and foremost, congratulations on your book. It's for those of you listening in, Asha just written a book called Swati Snacks, A Culinary Journey of Hope and Joy. And it was a book I couldn't put down, and I resonated with it so much, so much. I was like, this is exactly what I go through all the time. And I'm so glad I'm not alone. I can't recommend it enough for anyone who's in the F&B space, but even if you're not, just pick it up, because I'm pretty sure especially if you live in Bombay or you've passed through Bombay, you would have had a meal there. And, it's such a great story. So first of all, what made you decide to write this and, share your journey?
Actually, my publisher, he is my friend, and he gave me the idea of writing the book.
But that's not an easy task. I mean, to actually sit down and, Swati's more than 50 years old. You've written about, your journey right from the time you were born. And, that's quite a history to encapsulate. So, how long did it take you? And, how did you go about it? How did you just get started?
Actually, he gave me one ghostwriter. So she kept on asking me the questions, and we made a few sessions, like 8 to 10 sessions, and we completed the book.
I really loved how it was just so honest, and it was just so, simply written, and just the honesty of it honestly was I think the most refreshing thing to to hear through about the journey. So firstly, like I said, congratulations. And I'm gonna sort of pick on some of the themes that you've written about in the book. And I think for anyone who lives in Bombay, any part of Bombay, it's impossible to not have experienced Swati at some point in your life. And I know, for one, it's been a part of my life since I was a child. And, I remember my father taking me there on Sunday mornings for jalebis, straight after we'd done yoga. So it was his quid pro quo for doing a little bit of exercise. But it's such an ingrained memory, that I have. And I don't have that many of my childhood, as in I sort of, I don't remember so many things, but this is something I really remember. And even long after that, when I was working, in my late 20s, I just moved back to Bombay after living abroad, and I used to work quite late while I was working in PwC as an accountant. And Jay would come and pick me up from work in Bandra, and I would be like, I want to go to Swati, and it would be like 10 o'clock. I'd be like, please, I hope it's still open. I hope they'll still serve me. It's just been such a part of my life. And I think the first thing I just want to understand from you is, what is it, according to you, about Swati that just makes it such an integral part of people's lives? Like, you just keep going back. You sort of, take your friends there who are traveling into the city. You're like, okay, one meal has to happen there. I know Jay's oldest daughter, before she goes back to the US, she's always like, last meal has to be at Swati. What is it about this place, according to you?
Actually, I don't plan at all. Nothing. I just flow as the time comes. And
so I think for me, it's been a very similar experience. My childhood has been like almost once a day I would eat a panki. So for me, the thing is that I think it's a mix between the commitment that Asha Mami has for the taste and the quality. So whether it's a bhel, or whether it's a panki, or whether it's a dhan shak or a satpadi, everything has to taste the same. If she's not happy with the taste, it doesn't leave the pass. And her sort of commitment to coming here, and still today the food tasting is done every day by different people. But at the end of the day, it will go through her, and if it's not up to her standard, then it's not served in the restaurant. And even her brother, Asha Jhaveri. So I think their focus has been completely spot on since they've taken it over. Is that both of them never really look to make money in terms of revenue. So whenever we have our monthly reviews, we're really rarely talking about how much more we've made or how much profit has been made. It's just talking about how did people enjoy a particular dish or some special that's been launched. Did people like it? If they didn't like it, what they didn't like about it. So it's a really conscious effort into keeping the taste and not sacrificing on the quality. And the money and the reputation and all that is just, I think, sort of a side effect of this. But because we don't focus so much on the revenue and more on the experience and the taste. So I think that sort of translates, like when you make food with love, somehow or the other, it translates into the taste and the quality of the food. So I think that's been consistent over the past 40 years with Asha Mami.
I think I completely agree with you, but it's definitely easier said than done. And, kudos to both of you and everyone in the family who's involved. Sorry, go ahead.
It's a very, very challenging thing. Each moment is a challenge here. And you don't know what challenge will come up. Yeah. So you have to meet with that challenge.
I think 40 years down the line, yes. Asha Mami is still facing new things that she would have not.
And I'm still learning.
I feel like that. I'm only sort of 12 years into the business, but I completely agree with you. Just going back to the beginning for you, you talk about in the book, and I'm not going to give away a lot of it, but how, joining the business was sort of thrust upon you, right? Because of the circumstances. And it was something that you really didn't intend to get into. And of course, you've embraced it with so much grace and you've grown with it. And now I think it's your whole and soul, of you. And that's amazing. I'm going to actually ask Karan, you're the next generation that's sort of now come into the business. How did you feel about, joining the business, and what sort of inspired you to kind of come in? Because I know you're actually a creative person. You're not sort of from F&B traditionally either. So, how did this happen for you?
So for me, it was really very fortunate that it came about. Like you mentioned, I don't have a background in the F&B industry, and really weirdly enough, no one in Swati Snacks, from our chef to our manager to our waiters, no one has come from an F&B
Including
background.
me.
Yeah,
I know, exactly.
So somehow I think that sort of works for us. When you're from the F&B sector, there are certain expectations that you may have. We do not work like a normal restaurant. We have our own means and methods of doing things. So it's become sort of a conscious effort to try and not take someone from the F&B industry and take them raw and then train them. And then what we do is we take them from all the way down they start at utility or at serving water. And then slowly they go up the ranks as confident. We feel confident that they can achieve the job, and then they feel confident as well. So that's one thing. Secondly, for me, when I joined, it was actually something that I was really scared to do. A, because I'd never run a restaurant before, and B, it was not just any restaurant. It's Swati Snacks. It's something that if a puri is changed today, then my customers by evening will have sent me 100 emails saying like, you've changed your puri. What have you done? Go back to your. So it's a little bit daunting for me. I was really fortunate to have Anand and Shan. Shan is Anand's son, who runs the entire brand between Bombay and Ahmedabad. So really fortunate to have their sort of guideline. And I clearly remember is when I interviewed for the job. The first.
Wait a minute, you interviewed for the job?
Yes. Again,
Shan flew, especially for his interview.
Yeah, so Shan came.
Wow. Okay, so this is not about rites of passage and just passing on the legacy to the next generation.
I think Swati Snacks is, again, like, you could be the son, you could be the nephew, you could be anyone. But if you're not of the same vision and you don't share the same plan, then you're not going to be able to enter the restaurant. But I think that's really good. So like I said, from the first interview I had, the first thing Shan mentioned to me is that we are not looking to increase sales, which was again something really weird for me to hear. We're looking to do continual improvement. So although you're selling 5 pankis today, but can you do it better? Can you make the experience better? Can you make the chef's experience better? Can you make the restaurant better? So my focus was, instead of coming on increasing revenue and doing things like that, was more of seeing it from the point of view that I've already experienced Swati Snacks as a customer. So fortunately for me, I had a few things that I wanted to change and I could do. And Anand, Shan and Asha Mami have been like really supportive of all of my ideas, good, bad, ugly. But together, I think the key is that we're all doing it together, and everyone's opinion holds weight. So for me, it's been a breeze. I thought it would be way tougher than it has been right now. But that's not to say that the challenges have been harder. But then again, it's enjoying. I mean, it's fun.
So, Asha ji, I want to pick up on one thing that Karan just mentioned, and is about innovation and continuing to evolve, right? For me as a restaurateur, I think one of the things that I always sort of struggle with is people, especially when you're catering to a local market, right? People come back again and again to a place, and you need them to keep coming back to your restaurant. They come back because they crave something, right? They love something that they've had, and that's where consistency plays such an important part, because you need it to taste exactly like they had it the last time, and and again and again. How do you balance having introducing new things on the menu versus keeping the old favorites that everyone always comes back for? And I know that, I've come and you've plied me with all the new things that you've done, which are equally yummy. But honestly, if you weren't there and you hadn't asked me to try it, it's probably not something I would have gone for, right? I would have gone because I want my like dahi batara puri, I want my panki, I want my like pani puri, and I want my sort of staples, right? So how do you balance that innovation versus having sort of staples on the menu. And you've actually written about this in the book when you talk about introducing the panki, which in the beginning sold like 3 or 4 portions a day. And now it's, what, I don't know, a couple of hundred probably. But it was a matter of getting people to try it, right? So how, what are your views on consistency of menu versus innovation?
When I introduce a new thing, I see to it that I don't touch any signature item. But the rest of the new items, I delete certain items from the menu and add few things. So it becomes little easy for me.
But why do you feel, do you not see that most people come back to have their old favorites? So what do you feel, why do you feel it's so important for you to keep innovating?
People love certain things, which I can't, I have no right to delete the certain things from the menu.
No, exactly. So why do you feel the need to innovate when at the end of the day, people are coming back for those old favorites?
No, that's my passion. And people love to see that, what's a new. And when we complete the board, people just stand there, see the things, what are the new items, and then they order also the new things. Because people love it, new things to try.
I think, I completely understand that. And I think that once you've got to a place where you've built trust with your diners and they sort of know that, look, anything that you will introduce is going to be yum and they'll give it a shot. I think that's the important sort of place to get to. You've now got to a point where you have 4 outlets, right? 2 in Mumbai and 2 in Ahmedabad. And I again, you've written a bit about the challenges of scaling and, consistency across the outlets. Doing it in 2 different cities is no mean task. But of course, your brother is there and, Shan is there. So you've got those eyes and ears, there to kind of ensure consistency. My question is how, when you talk about numbers and it's sort of not being the driving factor behind everything you do. And I totally resonate with that. I think we have a similar philosophy. Now that you've done multiple outlets, don't you feel you can do more now that you've kind of figured out how to maintain that consistency across different locations?
Yes, we can do. Of course, we have the capacity, but we don't want to because we are scared.
How can you? I'm scared I have 1 and I can't go beyond this. You've done 4. You have no reason to be scared anymore.
It's not easy. That's why.
Of course it isn't. But come on. It's something that, at some point, the whole purpose behind, I think, us restaurateurs is to feed people great food, right? And to share that love of food with people. You've pulled it off. You've pulled it off by doing, and now, Karan, you're the next generation. So how do you feel about, how do you kind of sort of think about scale and business and, and yet, of course, maintaining the quality and consistency that we all love?
So when I joined, I must say I was completely on the opposite spectrum of Anand, Shana and Asha Mami, and I'd come in saying that in the next 5-10 years I will have opened XYZ number of outlets in these cities. But again, that was my inexperience talking. I'd never run a restaurant before, like I said, and it was like my business brain. Trying to sort of make more profit, and it was more profit, more money. I was on that point of view. But the longer I spent with Asha Mami and with Anand and with Shan, and what I realized is that their commitment to the quality, like I mentioned before as well, like the revenue, we've never done anything based on, we'd make more money, so let's go here. It's always been so. Even our second outlet in Bombay was purely created because there was a waiting time in Tardev that was becoming ridiculous, where people were having to wait for 2 hours. And so that was the reason Asha Mami was like, we can't have people wait for 2 hours, let's open another one so they can go somewhere. The thought process has never been like, we're making X amount of money in Tardev, we can make X plus Y, so let's open another one. Similarly, same thing in Ahmedabad. So we started one in Ahmedabad, and the reason we opened the second one is again because the waiting times over there were a little bit too high, and the customer experience wasn't what we wanted it to be. Again, because you're waiting for so long. So I came into this whole thing thinking about let's expand it, let's do this. We have people from Dubai calling, London calling. Let's call them back. Let's get on it. But as I started running it, and as I started, we have about 30 to 40 items that are made every day, which require another 100 or so items to sort of the smaller items to prep it. So to have someone check all those things every day to ensure that it is the same quality, because like I said, a little bit of a change and all our customers instantly know. So I sort of have come towards their mentality where it's okay that we don't expand in terms of outlets and all, but as long as we can keep our consistency here. And we are expanding. We've just opened a cloud kitchen in Santa Cruz as well. So we are expanding, but we're doing it very, very, very slowly. And we have no one to we don't have any outside investment. We don't have anything to we don't have any pressure to meet particular goals. Like the only pressure is to make sure that the food tastes the same today and tomorrow and the day after. So I think our focus is more on that. And then as and when opportunities come, we don't dismiss them immediately, but we take a call based on that, whether we be able to maintain the standards that we've set for ourselves.
And of course, you talked about a cloud kitchen. I think that's definitely the flavor of the season, and given what we've all been through as an industry in the last 2 years, and it was an inevitable. It was almost like a survival thing that we all had to do, right, to get into the delivery space. And I know that a lot of what you do may not seem intuitively conducive to delivery, but you've obviously managed to kind of figure that out. So how has that experience been for you the last 2 years, and creating sort of something in the delivery space when your food is such that it really is best enjoyed fresh?
Right. The delivery, I mean, that also had to convince, it took a little bit of a time to convince everyone on board that we should go the delivery route, because, this was pre-COVID. We started luckily a couple of months before the pandemic hit us.
Oh, okay.
But then again, the only reason why we were skeptical on getting into delivery was, again, we were scared of how the food would taste, whether it would be the same. So there was a lot of about 3 to 4 months, I think, of R&D, of sending parcels to random friends' houses, to figure out which container works for which kind of food. Because like we have khichdi, we have dal, we have panki, we have semi-dry, dry. So each item required a little bit of R&D to figure out which containers holds best. Once Asha Mami, Shan, Anand, myself were convinced that the quality will not be compromised, which is about 4 to 5 months after the conversation of coming on for a delivery, that's when we started the delivery process. And I've been very happy with it. The only issue I guess we all feel is that we don't have that much control of the end consumer experience. I would ideally, in my perfect world, I would have loved to deliver it myself, have my guys go there and ask them and talk to them and see if there are issues. But in the real world, I mean, I'm quite satisfied with the way it's going on.
Yes, very true.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree with you on that unfortunately we can't control the end to end of the delivery experience. And that does, make us sort of nervous about that. You sort of, again, coming back to this question of scale, I think one of the key things for restaurateurs in this business is staff, right? And Asha, you've talked a lot about this in the book and the challenges with manpower. And, at the end of the day, everyone thinks this is about the F&B product, but actually it's about, the team behind it and churning out that consistent food and that experience, that hospitality experience every single day. And it is one of the industries that's known to have a high attrition rate due to the competitive nature of this industry. And I know that when you create a successful product, the easiest thing is for people to pluck your team and offer higher salaries, etc., etc. And, you've talked about this in the book and the challenges of dealing with this. Has it gotten any easier? How do you retain your team? What do you feel is motivating them to give you that commitment? And, has it gotten any easier over the years for you?
Well, it becomes when easier if you change yourself with the other person. That you can say in the family also, it goes whether you are doing any business or run a house or anywhere. If you adjust with the other person, then it becomes little easier. But if you go on demanding your thing only, then you also become very agitated, and it becomes very difficult, and the environment also, you spoil the environment also.
So are you sort of suggesting that it's important to listen to them and, accommodate their sort of needs as well?
Because person's needs are different. So if you go on, if you match with that thing, with their demand, then it becomes a little easy.
But I think one of the realities is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the biggest sort of carrot in a way is remuneration, right? Compensation. And beyond a point, how do you keep sort of competing with what people, with, the team of Swati, it's like there's like a ready-made team here, and we go through that, right? With the table, with all of our brands, where it's just easier for someone to, take your team and where they're already doing a great product. So, and the usual sort of lure is a higher salary. So, but you can't just keep paying more just to keep your staff. So how do you handle that?
I think it's a mix of both. So the first thing is that, like I had mentioned before, is like no one comes at a top position. Everyone, like I said, even our head chef is actually started out as a cleaner in the kitchen. And slowly over time, we've trained him, he's learned himself, and now he's become the head chef. So in these kind of scenarios, I think we build a certain loyalty that maybe other restaurants do not, because we actually work with them when they have no skill and there's no one even asking them about anything. We are the ones, and Asha Mami especially is the one who...
And I also become like them only. And part of them.
She encourages them to try and to learn.
And I hit them also, I pinch them also. But they all laugh at me.
So that's a big thing, that like people have grown with us and grown with the restaurant, so they feel a certain sense of possessiveness with the brand itself. So that's one thing. So when other people ask them to move, they're very, very skeptical, because again, they've grown with us. They know how we treat them. We have quarters for our staff.
Yeah.
I'm sure other people have it as well. But like I said, so all the training and the loyalty, I think, is something that keeps them with us. And also we do pay competitive prices. It's not like we pay lower than the market. But again, the price is, even for our staff, the price is, what they get. The experience of it, the fun of meeting so many guests, of learning different opinions and points of view. I think that for our staff especially engages them and keeps them providing the same consistency.
I think, it's, you've sort of hit the nail on the head with, which is that, I think investing in your team will reap its rewards,
Right.
And that's the key thing. It's not just about hiring and, getting the job done, but really investing in your team. And I think that's a great piece of advice. But just sticking to this idea of competition in the industry, Asha, you talk about your husband's friend who was the owner of a South Indian restaurant, and how he really helped you when you first took over the reins, and you really had no clue about sourcing ingredients, etc., and he sort of advised you on that. How do you feel about sort of what do you feel the landscape is like today? honestly, and I've been in the industry a lot less than you, a lot shorter time than you. I don't know if that's the scenario today where, people are so openly, helpful to each other when it comes to things like this, and potentially with your competition, right? Like, I mean, you do have South Indian dishes on your menu as well. What do you think the landscape's like today?
Because I feel nobody is in a competition. Because I don't agree. If you are not in a competition, nobody is there to compete with you. No. There are many people who does a panki also, and many items what I have started. They do in their restaurant, but we are not in a competition.
No, also I think the old school. I mean, when Asha Mami talks with her, the people who helped her set up the restaurant, which is the owner of Status and even Muthuswamy, and so they have a different approach on Gauri. It's like really weird. The way they
So
talk.
what is that approach? Like, explain it to me, because I just, I love that. I love that camaraderie. So what is that approach?
It's not about.
It's a feeling of helping each other, actually.
So it's not like what do you sold more dosas than me today.
Yeah,
it's like no, it's like, oh Asha, I found this guy who makes amazing atta. You should try it out. It's like that. So it's and it's not the same thing. Doesn't work with me and my generation of restaurateurs. Like when I talk to people who are not my friends, they're very guarded.
So why do you think that is? I mean, you're now around people who've had a very different experience and successfully so, right? Like all the brands you've just mentioned, Muthuswamy, Status, they're all equally successful, as is Swati. So you've seen this firsthand. So why do you feel it's so different in our generation?
So I honestly think it's a lot to do with the insecurity or the security. So when I talk with Asha Mami or the owner of Status or even Muthuswamy himself, they're very secure with what they have. They're very sure that their product works. They're very sure that the taste holds. They are not looking at if Swati improves their dosa, then my dosa will sell. So everyone knows what their target audience is. It's not like today if you come to Swati, tomorrow you won't go to Status. So that I think the
security is not there.
Yeah, and the thinking.
Well, how do you
because we work,
build that security?
No, because we work only for the customers, not to impress others, but only to satisfy the customer.
So essentially, if you're not spending your sort of life looking over your shoulder and seeing what everyone else around you is doing, but focusing on your experience that you're providing, your diner, that's all that matters, right? Because today there might be 3 people doing something similar. There might tomorrow be 10 people. And you can't just sit there and be watching, what everyone else is doing, but rather should be focusing on your own business.
Right.
But it still doesn't happen. And that's what really kind of baffles me, honestly.
It doesn't happen. It took a conscious effort on my part to look at it that way. But I think like I mean, these people have just lived with it, Asha Mami, Anand and Shah, all of them, they're just like, I can't express it in words, but I think when you meet them and talk to them, you'll get an idea of like, it's not it's really strange that it's a restaurant that doesn't look to increase revenue. It took me a while to just understand that. And so once you see it from that perspective, which is providing quality food and keeping your customers happy, then automatically all these things about competition, about someone else raising prices, all that sort of fades in the background automatically. And these people have been doing it for 40 years. So I think it's like way back in there.
So you got to take it as gospel, even if you haven't experienced it for yourself. Listen, that's some gold over there. I live for the day when I don't feel, it doesn't bother me at all what anyone else around me is doing. And I hope I get there as soon as possible.
Please don't get us wrong. It bothers us. But then for 10 minutes and then we are okay.
You go back to your own problems.
Do what you do best and the result will speak for itself. That's what we do.
Yeah, I think it's really about that belief in what you're doing and, that that commitment to giving your best is what you need to focus on, and that's honestly the only thing you have control over, right? Because you don't have control over what anyone else around you is doing. So
yeah, luckily for me, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, they've been doing it for like 40 years consistently, so there is something right, and my goal is to just make sure I'm on that path.
That you're learning everything you can. You sort of talk in the book also about this incident of a catering that you did in Alibag, which didn't go as well as you would have liked, and how it bothered you so much. And again, I completely, I could feel the pain, because I take every piece of criticism very personally, maybe less so than when we first opened, where literally I couldn't sleep for nights. And, then I learned to, that not everything's in my control, and these things are inevitable, and you have to kind of learn from it and move on, rather than sort of dwell on it and try and undo it, because you can't, right? So, but it is easier said than done. And, I want to know how you deal with, do you still get complaints, first of all? Does that even still happen like 50 years on? And how do you deal with it?
Well, I don't plan to deal with anything. It's my personal nature also, that I'm not that sensitive. Whatever comes I take it very easily.
No, and also she'll if a complaint comes, she'll immediately go taste it.
Yes.
And it's so, whether it comes from a customer, or whether from a cook, or whether from someone else, so she immediately goes and tastes it. Then she takes her own decision on what needs to be done.
Yes.
So I mean, it's again, like I said, she's been doing this for 40 years, so she's got a really thick skin. I get very upset when people say things, whether your food was too spicy or this. But I mean, she's been in the business for longer than my age, so she's gotten used to it. But she may say that she doesn't get affected, but she does. I'll tell you, she does. But I mean, that's a part and parcel of the game. As long as you can fix it, and she has enough faith in herself to ensure that the same mistake won't happen again.
But what do you do with difficult customers who maybe aren't right, and that whole philosophy of your customers always right is
comp their item, cancel their bill, feed them an extra dessert.
Exactly.
But you can never say that they're wrong.
You send them, that's it. You send them happy.
Yeah.
No, of course, that's the goal for sure. And I think over the years, everyone's skin gets thicker, and that's comes with age, I guess. So, Karan, you and I have a little.
Definitely, you will become thick.
Yeah, no, but I think it's it's funny. I would get so rattled when there would be a complaint, and someone would tell our team, they'd be like, please send me the owner's number. I'm going to be calling them up, or send me their email address and this, that. And I would get so rattled and be like, Jay, here, you answer the phone, you deal with this. But no, I think like with anything, you just have to take it on the chin, listen, and if something needs to be corrected, do that. If not, move on, right? I think
whatever challenges comes, it teaches us something.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a learning for us.
No, absolutely. I mean, we had one of our biggest challenges when we opened a restaurant, which we went on to close 15 months later. And it at the time, it felt like a disaster. But, after we got through that initial sort of this sort of, upset in our lives, you actually just sat down and looked at it objectively and learned, made a list of all the lessons that you could get out of it. And actually it was a great thing. I think it's just a matter of getting over that emotional side of the business as quickly as you can, and being, practical about it, I think.
Right.
And, you've actually, Asha ji, also talked a lot about the impact of spirituality in your book, the impact of it in your life, but also, how your commitment to it reflects in everything you do. How has this sort of impacted your approach to business? I mean, I know a lot of it you've talked about, you sort of, taking everything in your stride and taking every moment as it comes, but take us sort of through that a little bit more.
In what way?
Just the aspect of how spirituality, has sort of what it's taught you in dealing with your business.
First of all, it taught me to become calm and accept the things, whatever it comes, and just surrender the situation. Those three things have really taught me.
That's true. It sounds so easy when you say it, but when you're in the moment and there's something that sounds or feels like it's
very difficult, but if you practice, it becomes easy.
Yeah. No, I'm sure.
Yes, over time.
I mean, I'm on the opposite spiritual spectrum right now, but
no, I think you and I are on a similar wavelength and have a long way to go. So
teacher is different, so you can compare the.
But Karan, you're very lucky to have a mentor, right? At your fingertips, and
Yeah, it's a big blessing. And even when it comes to spirituality, again, I've known Asha Mami since I was a kid. She has been a lot when she was younger, a lot more restless, a lot more like, let's do this, finish this. But over time now, I can see the change in her. The calmness. Like before, if a panki was wrong, her reaction today and 10 years ago, completely different. So I guess the spirituality, it sort of seeps in through my chefs and my waiters as well. It's really a calming atmosphere. And I think that's really because she's so at one with herself. So it sort of spreads to the restaurant.
That's amazing. So what are your future goals and plans, and what's sort of lies ahead for the vision for Swati?
I think the one thing that we've always had and that hopefully should never change is that the consistency should always be good. So our future, our past, and the upcoming future is only concerned with the quality and the tasting. The future of Swati Snacks in terms of outlets and more cities, I can't say because I don't know until we are we have to be really confident or have someone who we feel that can run another outlet. So maybe waiting for the fourth generation to come into the business, and then maybe we'll get somewhere. But we take every day at a time and ensure that the quality and the food is consistent. And again, an Asha Mami's innovation of her special items and those kind of things, that is something that we are going to focus more on.
That's amazing. Well, listen, I wish you guys all the best. And this is, it's even though I'm not part of your business, I feel like it's such an integral part of my life. And, I have a vested interest in what happens to Swati. So, but it's amazing. You're, like you said, it's all about consistency. And you guys have nailed it every single time. So, kudos and hats off. And we have so much to learn from you, all of us. I'm going to take a quick break and come back where we will talk about all things non-Swati. So bear with me. So welcome back to the show. And here we will, we call this a rapid fire section where we're just going to ask you a few things and say the first thing that comes to your mind. And what is your favorite thing to eat, not from the Swati menu?
Actually, I like everything, but should be good and tasty. I like South Indian, I like Gujarati thali, even I like continental also. Not very cheesy, not very buttery, creamy, but should be in an original taste. That's it.
You're a true foodie at heart. Karan, what about you?
My go-to is pizza. I mean, you feed me pizza, breakfast, lunch, dinner for a month, and I'll be very, very happy.
Sounds good. What would be your advice to budding entrepreneurs, whether in the food space or not?
Just whoever wants to start the restaurant, just be consistent. That's it. Concentrate only on your food. Don't eat anything else.
Karan?
I guess the importance of failure. I mean, people that I've seen, people really shy away and are really scared of failing. So for me, failing's been a big. You don't learn as much in life as you do when you fail at something, as opposed to doing something really well. So I think be okay to fail. Be okay to change your point of view that you had in the past and to evolve. But at the same time, there are certain things that you stood firm on, whether it's your business policy or whether it's what you're doing. Try not to deviate from that. Easier said than done. But I think that's what's kept me going, at least in that sense, is accepting failure and not changing too much.
So if you weren't both restaurateurs, what would you be doing?
I don't know what. Even you are there. You are also a restaurateur. You also know.
But I know you're both in the creative space, and you've talked about being an artist and how that was something that you started sort of dabbling in before you became a restaurateur. Is that still something that you do?
I don't think so.
Don't paint anymore.
No. I don't think so.
We should start it.
Who would have thought, 40 years ago that today you would be thinking of nothing other than restauranting, right?
You can't plan your life. You just can't plan your life.
Yeah, you can try, but then I also restaurant for me. It's an easier answer. I would write movies and try and get into that space.
So next up is the movie on Swati, guys. So
Yeah.
It's a wonderful idea.
it is. Yeah. I would watch it. I mean, for sure. So you're halfway there with the book. So, finally, what's your definition of success?
I don't know how to answer. What to answer? What is the definition of success?
I think if I can answer for her, I think it would be that.
I feel relationship with customers as well as with your staff is very, very important. The relationship is very important, and to love your food. You must love your food, what you eat and what you give. That is the success.
Well, truer words have never been spoken. Listen, thank you so much for all these pearls of wisdom that you've dropped. I feel like I just had a mini masterclass in the business of F&B and running a restaurant. And I'm sure for everyone listening, there's so much to take away. Thank you so much. And I truly wish you both the very, very best.
Thank you so much, Gauri. Thank you for having us. It's been enlightening, I must say. It's the first podcast.
We really enjoyed today.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Thank you.
It's not the years of life that count. It's the life in your years. This is a quote mentioned in Asha Ji's book, which pretty much sums up the Swati journey for me. How she learned to embrace what was initially thrust upon her and then built and evolved with it, only for it to finally be the dearest thing to her. Her book takes us through this journey in an honest narrative of the ups and downs and is truly an inspirational for all, whether in the culinary business or not. So I strongly urge you to pick up a copy.